Hey, we can get started with an interview with departmentleaders.com. We have Mr. Calavito McKie.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, look here, he is a young leader and he is going to he is making a huge difference in the lives of many children. And I'm going to tell you, we are excited to have him on this talk for departmentleaders.com. How you doing, Calavito?
I am doing just fine, my man, just fine.
Hey, look, first, question number one, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience as a department leader. Tell us what you do at your current school.
All right, so my name is Calavito McKie, and I am at Southeast Middle School. I'm currently the International Baccalaureate Program Coordinator at that school for the middle years program. And in my role, I'm actually serving in a dual capacity. I'm actually a seventh grade English teacher as well. And then in my other role as the IB coordinator, my job is to make sure I professionally lead the teachers in their knowledge and their abilities to get professional understanding of what the International Baccalaureate Program is and what it stands for and how it's supposed to be implemented in our setting.
But how many teachers are you working with on a regular basis?
I'm glad you asked. So we're 6th to 8th grade, obviously. So I'm working with anywhere between 36 to 54 teachers on a regular basis. And that's including our global arts team as well. So it's a lot of us, but definitely everybody's definitely, how can I say this, have bought into the program, especially since this year. We've gone through what we call a transition, but most importantly, it's been a fun transition, and they're starting to take heed and understand where we're going with the school and what we're trying to do with the program itself. So yeah, about 50, I say about 54 people at the most.
Cool. Now, I want to ask you my second question. And this is, this could be a tough one because I know it takes many characteristics, but I want to know, in your opinion, what is the most important characteristic of a great, notice I said great, of a great department leader, the most important characteristic?
In my eyes, amongst the several characteristics that I would think would define a truly inspirational department leader, I think the one that stands out the most is the initial piece, which is being a visionary, having a vision so that you have a sense of where you're trying to go. And most importantly, you have a roadmap of how you're going to get to where you're trying to go. So I think that's the starting point, being a visionary, a true visionary.
Now that's good stuff, because in order to lead a group of teachers, okay, who really, are service providers to our most precious commodity, students, you have to have a vision. You have to know where you're going. And more importantly, you have to be able to transcend that to the team that you're working with collaboratively. So that's huge, that vision. Now, Look, here's the next question, Mr. Mackey. Here's the next one. What is the biggest challenge? What is the biggest challenge department leaders face right now in education?
Oh, can I be real and honest?
We want you to be real.
I think the biggest challenge right now that department leaders are facing is finding highly qualified individuals that want to be in the field of education. It's one thing to get individuals in the classroom, just to have a body in the room, but does that really serve a true purpose for our precious commodity, which is our students? So in a sense, I think the biggest issue right now is trying to get not only highly qualified people, but individuals who want to be there and who want to make a real difference. I think that's where we're struggling. And then even amongst some of our department leaders, you still have a couple of them who are still trying to decide if they want to have one foot in and one foot out, and what we can do to convince them to have that one foot in. But then one of the things my professor used to tell us in undergrad is, his goal is to figure out what he can do to change your mind from being an educator and for the longest, we always try to figure out what he meant by that. But then after looking at that and listening to him, I understood where he was coming from. If I can change your mind from being an educator, that means your mind was really never there. So I say that to say, if we want to have strong departments, we got to have a strong department lead who want to be there, who have what we call a stake in the environment, but most importantly, a true investment in the community that they're serving. And I'm not just talking about the housing community, but I'm talking about the student community and the entire student population, the school population there. So I think it has to be the big picture, but we have to figure out as admin teams, how can we continue to inspire those people to want to take a stake or want to take a stand for what it is that they signed up for initially. So I think it's kind of twofold, maybe in a sense trifold too. But most importantly, just trying to make sure the people that are challenged with the task of leading know where they're trying to go and what they want to do, and definitely are 100% committed.
Right, because it has to be intrinsic, right?
Agreed.
Like you said, you have to want to be there, and you have to understand your superpowers, as you like to say. Yes. I like to say, instead of saying, hey, we are, teachers, we are PLEs, professional life engineers. We have the ability every single day to mold the minds of young people so they can go out and change the world. There's a lot of responsibility in that, and you have to take it seriously. We have to be professional educators.
Oh, yes.
And as a professional, you understand that you have to build those relationships with your students. You understand that you have to be responsible for outcomes, as academic outcomes. And you also have to understand that you need to be in a position where you're willing to make changes based on data, because, our kids change on a, almost on a daily basis. So we got to be willing, to make changes. And a lot of that, again, comes from that intrinsic, ability, that intrinsic work that you have within yourself to understand, hey, I come every single day to make a huge difference in the lives, of young people. That's huge. That's huge, Mr. McKie.
And I'm very big on, I'm glad you brought up the intrinsic factor. I'm very big on intrinsic motivation. I instill a lot of that within my kids. We work hard, but I also try to give them some extrinsic rewards too. But the most important takeaway is making sure they understand that what I'm trying to get you to be able to do is all intrinsic, and it has to be intrinsic for life. And we need that same thought and mentality amongst our faculty. And I'm talking about every faculty, every school that has a faculty. We just need to have that same commitment from them, and they have to see it. Is it a daunting task? Yes, it can be. But then that's where we as a leadership team, or we as leaders, have to figure out what we can do to professionally get our people on board. And just like we typically do in the classroom, you always hear, in our professional development sessions, okay, you have to differentiate for the kids, or you have to differentiate for the adults too, because every adult is not the same. So you have to figure out how you can get them to buy in. You may have to do something for one adult that you don't have to do for another. So my job as the IB coordinator at Southeast is to try to figure out, first off, build a relationship with the teachers so that they understand that I have their complete support, and I am going to support them throughout everything, and they understand where I'm coming from. But most importantly, once I have that positive relationship, then at that point, then they're able to be coachable. And then in some instances, they're coaching me too, because I'm learning from them as well. It's reciprocal, and that's what we want.
Right. Now that's a huge tip. That's a huge tip, Mr. McKie. That is a huge tip. So what you're saying is, as a department leader, you have to be intentional about building relationships with your teachers, your team that you're working with. And you also have to take a look at what are the strengths of your team? What are some of the weaknesses of your team? What are some of those things that are going to motivate each individual person and create experiences, right?
Yes.
Create opportunities, to build that, within your team so they can go out and be motivated to do what's best for kids. That's
Most definitely.
huge. That's huge.
Yep, most
So,
definitely.
so that's bigger than, now keep in mind, that's bigger than just teaching your classes and dispensing information that you get from, the administration. That then becomes, real hardcore leadership when you're talking about building relationships and getting the best out of our teachers, because we want our teachers to come to work every single day giving their absolute best.
And that's 1000%. That is our number one goal. So as a leader, I know the instructional leader I want to be. I want to be that instructional leader where my teachers trust me, and they also understand that I trust them and I trust their work ethic as well as them trusting my work ethic. But in order for me to get them to that next level and to get them to where I want them to be so that we can move to school where I wanted to be, then we have to be in it together. We have to be able to coach each other in some instances because we're all human. So yes, sir, that's a major deal.
And
Major
everyone,
deal.
look, and everyone adds value.
Oh yes, everybody.
Everyone adds value. Now, let me ask you this one last question. As a department leader, what is one thing, if you could get one thing to make your job easier in terms of a resource, what would that be?
Man, in a district where resources are plentiful, that's a hard question. But what I would say is just trying to figure out, I do an exceptional job of bringing in the community and making, bonding with the communities that I serve in. But what I would like to see happen ultimately would be more along the lines of trying to figure out how we can get the community, how we can educate the community so that we can educate the children that we have. Because in order for us to reach the kids, we got to reach the adults too. And most situations don't occur the way we want to with the best outcome because there's a lack of support at home. Well, a lack of support at home is coming from others' experiences in school too. So maybe you have to go in and figure out how to get time or make time to see every parent that is involved in your school. Even if you have a school of 1,000 kids, my goal as an instructional leader is to make it my business to be in touch with all 1,000 parents so that every parent know that I am there for them and I'm giving them everything they need so that they can give my kids everything they need at home. So I think that total buy-in is going to be necessary and it's going to help move the schools. But if I can ask for anything, it will be every sense of resource that I can get at my fingers to make sure our parents get the necessities that they need to make sure our kids get what they need at home so that they can come to school and they can be able to function in an environment that's going to be conducive for their learning needs. But most importantly, they'll feel like they're supported in every area and they can make some things happen with their dreams coming true too. So I want to make sure we have the resources out there, but most importantly, the motivation as well, and making sure the entire community understands that we're here for them.
Hey, Mr. Calavito McKie, man, I would like to thank you, man, for just hopping on, this talk just for a little while to, to drop some nuggets, to share and help other department leaders. Once again, I would like to thank you for being a part of departmentleaders.com.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was definitely a pleasure.